Once, in the heart of Syria, the bells of Aleppo rang every morning, calling the faithful to prayer, hope, and peace. But one day, the bells fell silent, and the city drowned in fire. Among the ruins lived the Darian family, a humble Christian household, clinging to faith while the world around them collapsed. A father who built with his hands, a mother who taught with love, and two children who dreamed of freedom. When persecution knocked on their door, they were faced with a choice: deny their faith or lose everything. This is their journey from the ashes of war to the light of a new beginning. A story of faith that refused to die, of a family that crossed deserts, borders, and oceans to find peace under a foreign sky. From Aleppo to Toronto, from darkness to dawn, this is the story of From Ashes to Light, the Darian family's journey to freedom. The sun had barely risen over Aleppo, once a city of music, prayer, and life. Now, its skyline was broken, smoke rising from the ruins of homes and churches. The Darian family, a Christian household, had lived there for generations. The father, Youssef Darian, was a carpenter, humble and known for repairing the wooden doors of the old St. George's Church. His wife, Miriam, was a teacher who once led Sunday school for children. Their two children, Daniel, 16, and Lena, 9, grew up in a home filled with prayer, songs, and the scent of fresh bread from their tiny oven. But everything changed the day the bell of St. George's fell silent. Extremists had begun marking Christian homes with black paint. A warning: those who refused to convert or pay heavy protection taxes were kidnapped, tortured, or executed. One evening, Youssef returned home with a trembling voice. "They burned Father Elias's house," he said, "and they took his son." Miriam covered Lena's ears, trying to keep her innocence a little longer. That night, the family prayed longer than usual. Daniel whispered, "Why does God let them do this?" Youssef, his eyes heavy with sorrow, replied softly, "Sometimes faith must pass through fire before it shines." It began with a whisper among neighbors. Smugglers could take families out of Aleppo toward the Lebanese border for a price. Youssef sold his father's old tools, Miriam's wedding jewelry, and even their furniture to buy passage. The night they fled, the sound of gunfire echoed behind them. Lena clung to Miriam's neck as they rode in a packed truck covered with blankets. Every bump on the road felt like Judgment Day. One wrong turn, and they'd meet soldiers who saw them as enemies. When they reached the border, they hid in olive groves. A storm broke out, and the truck sank in the mud. Daniel, trying to help push, slipped and hurt his leg, but Youssef refused to stop. "We can't go back. God will open the next gate." Hours later, drenched and shivering, they crossed into Lebanon. The smugglers left them on the roadside. No food, no shelter, only hope. In Beirut, they became part of the forgotten. Thousands of displaced families living in tents and half-built buildings. Miriam taught refugee children to read and write using torn notebooks. Youssef repaired broken chairs and doors for small coins. Daniel grew quieter each day, haunted by the sounds of war. One day, an aid worker from a Christian NGO visited the camp. Her name was Sister Anne, from Canada. She listened to their story and promised, "There's a program for refugees like you, for families of faith who need safety. It may take time, but don't give up." That night, under the flicker of a candle, Miriam whispered, Maybe this is the path God wants for us. Maybe Canada is our promised land. For the first time in years, Yusef smiled. It took 2 years of waiting, interviews and prayers before their names appeared on the resettlement list. The day they received the letter, Daniel wept. "We're leaving Syria, forever." Yusef looked at him and said, "We're not leaving faith behind. We're carrying it where it's safe to breathe." At the airport, Lena held her little wooden cross tight as she looked at the airplane, her first ever. Miriam whispered a final prayer for the friends left behind. As the plane lifted off, the family saw the lights of the Middle East fade under the clouds. And for the first time, the horizon didn't look like fire, but like dawn. They landed in Toronto, Canada, snow falling gently, as if the heavens wanted to wrap them in peace. Everything was strange: the language, the cold, the food, but the kindness of strangers was something familiar. A local church welcomed them, helping them find a small apartment and warm coats. Yusef began working as a carpenter again. Miriam volunteered at a community center, teaching Arabic to other refugees. Daniel joined a local school, struggling at first, but soon excelling in art, painting the world he left behind. Lena, always smiling, said one day, "Canada feels like heaven, but sometimes I still dream of home." Years passed. The Darians became citizens, but memories of Syria never left them. When news broke of bombings back home, Miriam cried silently in church. Yusef built a wooden cross from olive wood, the last piece he had carried from Aleppo, and placed it at the altar, saying, "This is for all who never made it out." Daniel held an art exhibition called Faith Beyond Fire, painting scenes of both war and hope. His work touched hearts and raised funds for other refugees. In an interview, he said, "We lost everything except faith, and that was enough to rebuild." On Easter morning, years later, the bells of St. Mary's Church in Toronto rang beautifully. Yusef, older now, held Lena's hand as they entered. The sound reminded him of Aleppo. But this time, it wasn't sorrow that filled his heart. It was gratitude. Miriam lit a candle and whispered, "From ashes to light." And as the choir began to sing, their voices rose, not in mourning, but in rebirth. The Darian family arrived in Canada, carrying little more than memories and faith. Years of fear, loss, and wandering had left scars, but they had survived. In a land far from home, they found safety, love, and hope. Every prayer whispered in the ruins of Aleppo had led them here, to a life rebuilt with courage, resilience, and unwavering faith. Their journey was long, the road was harsh, but even in the darkest nights, their hearts refused to surrender. And now, the bells ring again, not as a memory of loss, but as a song of renewal. From ashes to light, from despair to hope. Their story reminds us all that no darkness is so deep it can extinguish faith, love, or the human spirit. Thank you for watching. Kindly subscribe for more untold stories.